Last year, I easily put over 150 hours into Diablo IV, making it one of my top games of the year. But after a few months of the game's seasons failing to re-enamor me with the gameplay, the long stint between the base game and the first of its major expansions meant the flaws in the game's systems really began to show. Thankfully, the lush and murky Nahantu offer a jungle-infused swampy injection of Diablo directly into my veins. Vessel of Hatred, the first DLC expansion for Diablo IV, is more than just a new expansion. It's a rebirth of sorts for the game overall, bringing with it a fiercely addicting new class, the Spiritborn, as well as a massive overhaul of the progression system and to the difficulty system as well. These changes, alongside some excellent new raids and solid foundational activities, make the unfinished and half-hearted campaign and middling endgame content hit a little softer, which is good because the Spiritborn class is so much goddamn fun that I can easily see losing hundreds more hours to this good brain juice causing ride of never-ending loot. Blizzard was clearly hoping to hook me right from the get-go of this diabolic package. Why else would they front-load the darkest, most bleak, bloody, body horror-filled bits right in the opening hours of the DLC? Vessel of Hatred picks up some time after the original campaign's end, where we saw Nayrel take off with the Mephisto-filled Soul Stone. She's been carrying it around as her new BFF and gorgeous accessory for quite some time now. She seeks a way to destroy him permanently and takes on the role of the Soul Burden Carrier. But sadly, this darkness is leaking out and she is struggling to keep it from consuming the world around her and herself. Like a Frodo to our Samwise, she seeks to destroy this darkness alone.
You go on ahead. I'll handle it alone.
And we're not going to let her do that. Meanwhile, the church has started executing the so-called sinners by flame and blade all throughout Sanctuary. So things have gotten pretty bad, especially around the time the new priest in town puts a giant hole in your chest like he's hole punching a coupon card for you to get a free ice cream sundae next time. The story elements are your typical Blizzard lore-heavy quest, but something about the overall narrative feels, I don't know, incomplete. It kind of reminds me of when Zack Snyder releases a film and before it even hits theaters, he's teasing that there's a better cut coming, like, oh, they wouldn't let me put everything I wanted to in this one, so you gotta wait and watch the full version. Wait, that's the good version. That's the complete version. Vessel of Hatred is similar in some ways because it is setting up to things that have yet happened. A looming unholy war waged by the returning Lords of Torment, one that is presumably a ways away. So not having a satisfying conclusion is about the worst thing that you could do. But it's also maybe the only bad thing that this DLC does. Still, it can really suck to fork out the money to continue the story of a game you love, only for that story to really end up being a prelude to something bigger. Now where was I? Oh yeah, we were stabbed in the back. After falling into a river, you awaken in Nahantu, a densely packed swampy jungle area festering with demonic creeps and oversized bugs. Get that poison resistant up because you're gonna need it here. Everything does poison damage. Okay, not everything. There's an awful lot of poison damage to be had here. The areas are simultaneously beautiful and grotesque. You see large trees and vines draped over every facet of the world around you, alongside veins of hatred oozing black pustules and swarming bursts of blood flies. The environment tells the story of the struggle to contain the hatred of Mephisto. It also tells the story of lost culture, religious zealotry, and of a demonic hatred so deep it literally turns the ground slick with vile black goo. I absolutely love the Mesoamerican style used for Nahantu and its cities. Intricate designs decorate the buildings, armor, and weapons found here. The foot-worn stone grounds and well-trekked paths make for a very visibly lived-in world. They also managed to sneak quite a bit of variety into the new area between arid deserts and monstrosity-filled bogs. Overall, this felt like a natural southern region of Sanctuary, and that is actually really hard to pull off with a game like Diablo that's already as big as it is. I don't remember it, but I guess we must have all complained at some point about there being too few hordes in Diablo IV because Blizzard clearly thought so. The game's newest systems, at least to me, seem to be absolutely engorging the playable area with a demonic glut of foes even on the lower difficulties. Which, I have to say, hell yeah. Finally, this feels like a world overrun with evil, one which there is no space for peace in the wild. Not to mention, the new difficulty system sort of reset what I expected out of each level of difficulty anyway. This meant I had to experiment and explore my build way more than I did before in order to deal with the onslaught of new enemies effectively, a change that may be a result of the revamped progression tools, as this subtle balance shift really encourages an exploratory approach to character building. Perhaps the best example of this is in the new class, the Spiritborn, a dex-based character with some insane potential and even more unbelievable levels of versatility. The Spiritborn are the apex predators of this new meta, a swift and deadly class who offers an expansive suite of tools with which to build a suitable playstyle. They channel the 4 spirit guardians. You got the big cat, the jaguar, who's fast and ferocious, dealing damage quickly. The eagle, who offers swift, wide-range attacks, allowing you to drop a great deal of damage at once and then retreat. The gorilla, a brute force on the battlefield focused on heavy hits and tanky armor. And lastly, the creepy crawler himself, the centipede, a monstrous poison-focused attacker whose focus is primarily damage over time. Now, Diablo could have easily locked our path to picking just a single one of these guardians, but thanks to the incredibly customizable progression system, you can mix and match to your heart's content. Initially, I went for a full jaguar build, thinking I would just dash around burning claw marks across foes as I pounced from scrimmage to scrimmage, but this wound up being a lot less fun and a little too glass cannon for me. So I restructured as a jaguar eagle mix, allowing me to rush in for those quick hits while offering solid retreat options. The razor wing skill in particular ended up being the best setup tool I could use for clearing out large areas at a time. After 30 or so hours with the Spiritborn, I've acquired some truly excellent legendary skills that allow me to do things like drop eagle feathers for damage behind me. Those same feathers will grant me a movement speed increase that can stack. My evade cooldown is practically non-existent, and I can effortlessly deal with massive hordes of elite enemies in seconds. So, needless to say, I think I found my favorite new class. While I found my rhythm in my build craft, others may still struggle against some of the tougher foes out there. Luckily for those nerds, Vessel of Hatred also features some highly requested returning features. The Pale Hand are the new companions, hireable mercs who have unique abilities. You can recruit them through side quests found throughout Nahantu. These side stories fill out the world of Vessel of Hatred with memorable characters and well-designed missions, plus the addition of a partner character is always welcome. On top of that, these characters are actually unique characters, which makes them feel more worth having on your team, like a one-armed blacksmith who's just trying to do right by his daughter, and a demonic child who wants to help save humanity. I love this expansion on the companions, who in previous games felt like default avatars standing around waiting for you to tell them what you wanted them to carry. Occasionally they would get to have an interesting ability, but not always. Diablo 2 had my favorite companions, and I think that these are maybe more in line with those. Speaking of D2, Runewords are back, baby, and they are better than ever, and you probably can't pronounce at least some of them. Basically, here's how it works. You can use sockets to create cause and effect words, such as after I evade 6 times, I'm going to automatically cast the Sorcerer's Frost Nova skill, which will insta-ice any bad guys around me. This is a perfect example of why Vessel of Hatred is Diablo firing on all cylinders. Think of all the satanic guts you're going to be able to spill with the assortment of new skills at your disposal. Granted, you can only use 2 of these at a time, but still, that's a lot of demon guts. My Spiritborn currently is rocking a Spirit Wolf that he can summon to his side anytime he takes a little sippy on the old flask, and can also cast the Barbarian's Earthquake skill, giving me access to not only an extra set of claws, but an AoE move on the battlefield. That's gonna be vital for the game's new in-game content. The new in-game content is surprisingly lacking for me personally. The new raid-like dungeon is a ton of fun, don't get me wrong, but it does begin to lose its luster fairly quickly. Being able to matchmake is a godsend though, and a welcome improvement to the overall social features of the game, especially if you are typically a solo demon killer. The Undercity is another late to in-game event that features you running a sort of time attack mode through randomly generated masses of creatures, bad guys, big bosses, and of course, dungeons. This is a fairly fun way to test the limits of your current build while also earning some great in-game loot.
No. Of course it's you.
I guess I only really have a few complaints here overall. For one, this DLC feels like a setup, and I don't mean like they're gonna frame me for murder, I mean a pricey setup for the next expansion. It lacks a significant amount of new stuff to feel like the massive expansive content dump that they're selling it to be. In fact, a lot of the new things I love were a result of the latest patch, not something that was found in this content bundle specifically. Look, don't get me wrong, I love the Spiritborn class, and that alone is worth a good amount of money. I also love getting to watch the continued struggles of Neyrelle and her story as she attempts a Tolkien task, but it feels incomplete as a total experience. My second complaint is one that is not easily addressed or appeased. Blizzard. Why, in 2024, on this planet, at this time localized entirely within my system, is there no offline play mode still? I should not have to worry so much about server integrity when playing through a solo story. Look, I appreciate the MMO light elements of this game as much as the next guy. World bosses and Helltide events are a ton of fun, especially whenever you get a good group going. But not being able to just, participate in this world at all alone is really annoying at times. There has got to be a solution, some kind of local co-op mode or local mode, something that we can do. Not everyone wants to or even can stay connected all the time. Also, side tangent here. Hey Blizzard, Activision, let's get Daddy Microsoft in here too, okay? Everyone sitting down, everyone listening? I would be far more willing to invest in the cosmetic store if you weren't charging $30 a skin pack. That is almost as much as this whole expansion cost. Are you insane? Inflation in the microtransaction space is nothing new. It's also, for the most part, made up. I'll tell you that right now. But good lord, this is just a bad deal. A $10 skin pack, dude, I'm in. Hell yeah, let's go. $30 though? I'm actively rooting against your store existing. Fix it, or start adding cooler items in-game for free. Okay, back to the review. Diablo IV was met with critical praise, but struggled with a lot of adjustments following its pretty flat reception of its early seasonal content. Vessel of Hatred and its corresponding patch are proof that Diablo can and still will reach new heights and evolve. I have never had more fun in a Diablo title blowing through an addictive loop of dungeons, raids, world bosses, and so many bloody demons with such a satisfyingly designed character. No matter which one of the 4 guardian spirits you choose from, Spiritborn will have a moveset that just feels right for you. I really can't stress enough how versatile the moveset is. The ravenous poison of the centipede is a perfect partner to the stun-heavy concussive strikes of the gorilla. Choosing your guardian allows you to also gain that guardian's buff on all types of moves. Look, I love a lot of the classes in Diablo, and Rogue will always be my go-to, but this is easily the best new class introduced to the series since the monk in Diablo 3. If it weren't for the forced online nature of the game and the story's lack of real resolution, I'd say this is the perfect Diablo expansion. Ultimately, this DLC is let down by its setup for something grander. If you're gonna have a setup, what a setup this one is. If you are a Diablo fan, lapsed or otherwise, there has never been a better time to reignite that spark and get into the game, because I'll be spending the wait for that next expansion happily losing hours to the loot grind and seasonal content. Vessel of Hatred is that near perfect Diablo experience, and it's an easy 9 out of 10 for me. Now I'm going back into the jungle to kill some things. For Hardwired, I'm Andrew Hamilton.